So today I'm going to be covering Murrells Inlet, South Carolina, which is here in the Grand Strand area. Murrells Inlet's located just south of Myrtle Beach, and obviously Myrtle Beach is just south of the North Carolina border here along the coast. I'm going to be addressing 9 common questions that seem to come up over the years as I've helped hundreds of clients relocate to this area. There are 9 questions that commonly come up in that first conversation when someone's filling out, in that preliminary stage of learning more about this area. So these 9 topics are going to be covering location and a lot of great information. I'm going to go ahead and mention these 9 topics and then we're going to jump in. So the 9 questions, the 9 topics, number 1 is, where is Murrells Inlet, South Carolina in relation to the beach? What does going to the beach look like, and what is that distance to the beach? Question 2 is often, what do the beaches look like? Meaning, okay, well, we know how far it is from the beach, but what are the beach accesses like? What are the facilities like? Restrooms, public parking. We're going to discuss that and what our beaches look like. And by the way, I'm going to have a lot of video coverage, helpful footage of these beaches, things like the state park, some of the stuff we're going to get into. I'm going to have maps that I'm going to show you and guide you through it. I'm going to hopefully have some stuff, some content to put up that can help, so you don't have to just sit here and listen to me talk you through this, which you could, I'm sure, find many other sources that do the same. I'm going to hope to make these videos, or this video, very helpful to you. So third, we're going to talk about Garden City Beach. Garden City Beach is an area here in Murrells Inlet. Commonly online, it's very tough to understand what Garden City Beach is. It seems to be an entirely different area. It's not. It's very confusing. Trust me, locals still have a hard time wrapping their head around this. But Garden City Beach is here in Murrells Inlet, and we're going to discuss that. And it's just an unincorporated area of Murrells Inlet. We're going to discuss that and what that looks like in its location. We're going to discuss where the closest airport is. We're going to discuss the distance and what type of airport that is. We're going to talk about healthcare. We're going to jump into covering what kind of healthcare we have here available to us, the surrounding areas, and then if you're wanting specialists, we're going to discuss that as well. If you're looking for medical colleges and things like that, we're going to cover that. So the 6th question is going to be, what is there to do? Obviously, that's a common question. What is there to do in Murrells Inlet, South Carolina? We're going to talk about the way of life, what to expect, and what there is to do around this area. We're going to talk about the style of house that you'll find, the various styles of housing and communities. We're going to talk a lot about communities and what is common in this area, what you'll find. There are various types of housing and communities, but we're going to discuss what the common element is. What do you more often than not find in these communities? What is the standard cost of living? That's one that commonly comes up. What are taxes? What is insurance like? What are the costs? We'll discuss a little bit as far as price goes on the actual housing, but we're going to jump into things like the taxes and insurance and the overall expenses and what that cost looks like to you. And then lastly, we're going to discuss, this is one that really comes up a lot. Folks are searching online, maybe you're finding something online, or maybe it's coming from over the years, watching the news and media and the weather. Are hurricanes and flooding an issue in Murrells Inlet? We're going to discuss that. I'm going to go over historical data to help you with that, so it's not just me talking about my experiences, but I will cover some of my experiences. I've been here for 20 years, so I will cover what it's been like for me and what I've noticed, and then we'll address some of, like I said, the historical data. And a big one is covering, try to touch on the last thing I mentioned about insurance. We're going to cover what flooding is like and what some of the misunderstandings, the common misunderstandings I hear. A lot of folks think storm surge on the beach, but our flooding, believe it or not, is commonly not related to storm surge. It's heavy amounts of rain, and the flooding is typically worse inland. So we're going to discuss that and handle all those questions. And we're going to go ahead and jump in now. Hello and welcome to the Coastal Living YouTube and podcast channel. My name's Drew Dellinger. I'm a realtor here in the Grand Strand area of South Carolina. The Grand Strand area is around Myrtle Beach. That may be the easiest way to understand it. You'll hear me in a lot of my videos refer to it as the Grand Strand area. But yes, I'm a realtor here in the area, and I have been doing these videos for a while now to try to just give back. There's a lot of the same questions that seem to come up over the years as I've helped clients, and I just hope these videos have been helpful. They've been fun for me, and I hope they have also been fun for you. So a little about myself. I moved down to the area about 20 years ago, and for the last 8 years, I have been a licensed real estate agent. I'm a very active agent, and this is my full-time career. I have sold over $100 million worth of real estate. No team, just me as of today in 2023. $100 million worth of real estate and helped hundreds of clients over the years. I humbly say that, but I do think it's important to mention it just so you know who you're talking to here and that I've had a lot of experience helping folks. So if you have questions about the area, please reach out. I understand that you may be in the preliminary phases of your search and are considering areas all along the coast. I understand that. I respect that. I'm a non-push type of agent, so don't be hesitant to reach out to me and think you're going to be overly sold and pestered from here. That's not my approach. And if you were to reach out to my past clients, I would hope that they would say the same thing. I just try to get all the info out there. I have a transparent approach. And hey, I'll be the first one to tell you if our area doesn't suit. I mean, you give me a list of your needs. We'll talk through your criteria, your wants and needs. We'll talk through your criteria, and I'll tell you what the area can do for you. I'm not going to try to overly sell you, like I said. That's not my approach. And hey, I have other realtor partners up and down the coast, or friends, I should say, and folks that have helped other clients of mine over the years of these other areas, whether they were moving out or, you know, just like yourself maybe end up in one of these other areas. I'd be glad to get you matched up with a realtor in one of these other markets that could help you. And again, if that's where you should land, if it's another area, great. Hey, I want you to be happy with wherever you end up settling at for your next relocation spot. So I want to throw up my contact info really quick so you'll have it and can reach out. Obviously, it'll be listed below, but please reach out if you'd like to talk through your situation and learn more about the area. And if these videos have been helpful to you, would you do me a favor and just maybe comment below, like, share, get it out there so other folks can have that same resource. I hope they've been helpful, and I do appreciate all the support. If you hit that subscribe button, you'll actually get a notification as my new videos go live. Maybe I'm discussing a topic that interests you or a community. If you'd like to get those notifications, please hit subscribe. It does help, and it does get these videos out there. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into today's topic and video now. And thank you so much. I look forward to helping you. So as we jump into topic one, I'm actually going to pull up a map. I think this is the best way for me to walk you through the location that we are here in Murrells Inlet to the beach. What's the proximity to the beach? That was the first topic I stated I was going to address. This is a question that comes up a lot as you were looking online trying to figure out where is Murrells Inlet. Now, quickly, before I jump into this map, and I am going to talk you through looking at this map so this makes a lot better sense. I just want to share some of my experiences as I have vacationed up and down the coastline from North Carolina to Florida. I have visited various beaches up and down the coast with my family. I've been to North Carolina, many South Carolina beaches further south than us, some Georgia beaches, and Florida beaches. I can't speak to all of them, but I did notice a difference from our beaches versus a lot of the beaches that I've visited. And that was how easy it is to get to the beach from where we're located. How we are situated along the coastline makes it a little bit different from some of these other areas that seem to compete price-wise, housing price-wise and standard cost of living to us. I've noticed that we are, in looking at a map, some of these locations may appear to be fairly close, in other areas up and down the coast, but I noticed that it was a struggle to get over to the beach. The parking was an issue, the travel time because of traffic, the roads, the bridges that lead over to these beaches. It was more of a struggle than we have here. So I just want to let you know that, here in Murrells Inlet, if this, is somewhere you're interested in, you're going to be about probably max of 6, 7 miles away from the beach at any given spot you are in Murrells Inlet. Makes the commute very easy. Just in addition to the distance, just the amount of beach accesses and beaches we have to go to. I'm going to talk a lot about Garden City Beach and Surfside, which is somewhere you can go to the beach. It's a public beach, lots of parking, public beach accesses, but then also Huntington Beach State Park, which is where my family and I go to the beach. I mean, it's a wonderful feature we have here, which is 1.2 miles of total beach access, and it's a protected state park. Going to walk you through that in a bit, but in all of these areas, you're only, like I said, within about 6, 7 miles to the beach. So it takes me about, I'm right smack dab in the middle of Murrells Inlet in Prince Creek. You may have saw my Prince Creek video of a big district in Murrells Inlet here, 2,700 acre master plan district in Murrells Inlet. That's where I'm located. Takes us about 15 minutes to get to the beach. So obviously we have some locations, here in Murrells Inlet. If you want to be able to, we've got oceanfront housing in Garden City. We have, walkable, golf cart friendly to the beach. But, if you're looking a little bit further inland, don't worry too much about getting to the beach. If you're a beach lover like me, it's probably important to you to be able to get over there with easy access. So I just wanted to address that. I think it's a huge asset we have here as I have traveled up and down the other areas. I'm not here to, maybe I'm a little biased. I do love this area. I'm definitely not here to talk against or push you away from other areas. I'm just wanted to speak of my experience and what I know is a nice asset we have here in Murrells Inlet. So let's go ahead and jump into this map now, and it'll make a lot better sense for you. What you're looking at now is a map of Myrtle Beach and Murrells Inlet. Now this is just a more simplistic version of a map. This is one of those you'll find in a brochure box, at a local supermarket or area store. If you've been here on vacation, you know what I'm talking about. It's one of those maps. Now I'm very thankful that the Myrtle Beach Chamber of Commerce has these maps that are out there. It's not real detailed, but actually I think this could help in relation to what we're trying to accomplish here, just in explaining the area to you a little better. So on a real map, an actual map, you're going to have a lot more water, and it's going to be a little bit harder to understand. I like how this is simply laid out. So what I've done is I've taken a marker and highlighted the area of, broken it down into 3 areas, highlight it in 3 different colors, and then I'm also going to use a feature to circle some areas to help you. I'm going to cover basically 4 areas and then the relation and the reason we're going through them. So let's start with Garden City Beach. Garden City Beach is an unincorporated area of Murrells Inlet. Garden City Beach itself is actually Murrells Inlet. Jump into that in a moment as I come back live and talk to you a little bit about. But Garden City Beach is this area right here. Now I actually highlighted Garden City Beach and Surfside. And what you're looking at there, I just wanted you to know where the beachfront was in Murrells Inlet. So this would actually be the beachfront in Murrells Inlet. This area where these streets are here, this is where all your housing is going to be very close to the beach. So all this, you're going to have your oceanfront housing, your inlet view houses on this side. You're going to have ocean view, oceanfront houses, and then you're going to have that walkable, golf cart to the beach housing back in this area. This is also where you're going to notice a lot of the vacation beach rentals. A lot of the homes that are on vacation rental programs or VRBO, Airbnb, that's where this style housing is. Now, if you're an investor and that's something you're thinking about is purchasing a vacation rental property, please reach out. My office is actually located over here in Garden City. We have 450 rental properties, vacation rentals on our program in this area. They're about that much. Don't quote me to that number, but about 450 rentals, and obviously have some special knowledge there in relation to what that looks like. And we can discuss cap rates and things like that, jumping into that type of property. Or maybe it's just you're looking for a second home and thinking about renting it out a little bit. Please reach out to me. There's a lot I want you to understand and make sure that that fits in what you're looking for, and give out some transparency there to make sure that is before you get into something that you're not sure that's what you're looking for. But anyways, so that's Garden City Beach, and that's where you'll likely go to the beach from areas of Murrells Inlet. So now let's jump into what you're looking at here, which I call the mouth of Murrells Inlet. You're going to see where Murrells Inlet is spelled out right here on the map. So that is the actual inlet itself that comes in off of the beach. And you'll see I drew a dotted line here that says jetties. This is where the commercial fishing boats, or personal boats that want to go out to the ocean and do fishing, this is where they come out of. See, up in Myrtle Beach and these other areas, they don't have this access like this to get out to the ocean for fishing purposes. So this is where a lot of the boating will come out of, and this mouth it's a beautiful area with housing all around it. And over in this area where I'm drawing a circle now is what locals refer to as the inlet. Murrells Inlet proper, the area around the Marsh Walk. We're going to get into the Murrells Inlet Marsh Walk a little bit later, but this is where a lot of your local seafood restaurants are, as these boats come in and serve all that fresh local seafood. So we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video as I discuss things to do and some of that. It'll make a lot better sense. But right now, for the purpose of this instruction and just trying to show you the area on a map, I'm just kind of looking these, pointing these areas out. That way, whenever you hear me talk about them in a minute, it'll make a little better sense to you. So we've got Garden City Beach. We've got Murrells Inlet. We've covered the actual inlet, the water, the mouth, the inlet there. And now we're going to jump over to Huntington Beach State Park, which I'm going to cover next as soon as we get off this video, and telling you a little bit about Huntington Beach State Park. Now, Huntington Beach State Park it's a lot of beach frontage, and you have the ability to go to the beach here, which is really, really nice. This is where a lot of Murrells Inlet residents will go to the beach. Now, what's interesting about it, you see it's about the same size of Garden City Surfside put together, at least on this map. And what's really neat about that is that I know from the North Beach access, which is kind of right here, I believe kind of right here in the middle of Huntington Beach, it's 1.2 miles to the end, to the point here of the jetties, to that South Jetty access. So, it could be, I guess, 2-3 miles of beachfront right there in Huntington Beach State Park. That's really, really cool and neat, because there's no housing. So it's just, looking at this map, it even confirms how much of an asset this is to Murrells Inlet, as these other areas like Myrtle Beach, there is a little state park in Myrtle Beach that on the south side of Myrtle Beach, but most of the areas up in Myrtle Beach don't really have good access to something like this where there's no housing. See, over here in Garden City Beach and Surfside, it's all residential housing. You got these various beach access points, but just a lot of traffic, a lot of housing. You go over here, it's just beautiful. There's no housing. It's a protected area. It's really, really neat. So I'm going to jump into that in a minute. I'm going to show you some video footage of Huntington Beach State Park so you can kind of get a better idea of what that looks like. So now that we've covered those three areas that I highlighted, I want to get back into the areas of Murrells Inlet that folks have a hard time understanding in relation to the beach. So I discuss, obviously we're trying to cover proximity to the beach. So this area right now that I'm going to draw a circle around, which is right here, this is the residential areas of Myrtle Beach. This is a lot of the communities. For example, where I'm at here in Prince Creek, the Prince Creek district of Murrells Inlet is right smack dab in the middle right here of Murrells Inlet. This is a 2,700 acre master plan community of about 20 different types of neighborhoods. I've covered Prince Creek in another video. Please go check it out to see more about that area. But that's back in this area. So if you're looking in a lot of these residential areas of Murrells Inlet, which is back in here, this is where I'm referring to of the furthest point being about 6 to 7 miles from the beach, which is about 6 to 7 miles over to Garden City Beach. Very easy drive, can be over there in about 15 minutes. Now, if you want to go to Huntington Beach State Park, it is a little bit more miles, but it's about the same drive. You'll see it's actually appears to be a little bit closer. It's just the way you have to get there. The roads take you a little bit longer to get down there and get through the park and everything. But about 15 minutes there, but as well. But it is not a bad distance at all. I mean, it's just such a wonderful. You got wonderful options if you're a beach lover. Obviously, I know that's what we're addressing here. So these are your beach access points: Huntington Beach State Park, Garden City Beach, and then your residential area back here. This area, when you purchase housing, it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to short-term rent your property. That's a nice feature for those moving here and don't want a lot of vacation rentals around you. There are some areas outside of these HOA communities that do allow the short-term rentals, but most people don't rent because the likelihood you can actually get anybody in there and rent them out goes down a lot when you get off the beach. I mean, this is where all the vacationers want to, Garden City Beach, Surfside, that's where all the vacationers want to be right there by the beach and not have to worry about driving and all that. So anyways, this is your residential area. Just wanted to cover it. I hope showing you this was helpful. I'm going to jump in and talk about some other things later. Brook Green Gardens, you'll see that's right here. I'll draw a line about that. So when I mention Brook Green Gardens, this is a beautiful place you can go visit. A lot of obviously it's a garden, but they actually have a little small zoo there. A lot of sightseeing, statues, nature. I mean, it's a beautiful place to go visit. They have a lot of events there. They got some restaurants. It's a Night of 1,000 Candles. If you've ever been here for that, it's a Christmas event that happens. They decorate the entire area and all the old plantation trees, the oak trees that were on the plantation. The Spanish moss. They decorated it in lights. It's just it's gorgeous. It's a fun time. So live music, things like that. But that is all back in this area. So I know I was getting ahead of myself there, but I just wanted you to at least see that on the map. So we're going to jump back in. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more and show you some video footage so this makes a little better sense. So now that we've taken a moment to look at that map and get a better idea of Murrells Inlet in relation to these beaches, I want to take a moment to talk you through some of the features of Huntington Beach State Park. Now, I'm going to show you some video footage as always. I think that's a very helpful way to really see what these areas have to offer. I have some great video footage of Huntington Beach State Park, and I'm also going to show you just a couple clips of Garden City Beach. There's a lot of the beaches in Garden City that are laid out with these beach accesses being the same, public beach parking. But Huntington Beach State Park, it's a lot more to go over. So let me quickly, before we jump into that video footage, tell you a little bit about Huntington Beach State Park. This is where, on that map, that's located on the southern end of Murrells Inlet, and it is a protected area. It's 1.2 miles of total beach with no housing. And I mean, it is absolutely beautiful. It is such a wonderful feature that we have that even other areas in our Grand Strand area do not. I always mention that to folks, and that just comes from personal enjoyment. Obviously, I've helped hundreds of clients relocate here, and I've been in touch with them. I stay in touch with all my clients, and they love Huntington Beach State Park. But for me personally, I mean, I can tell you from personal experience, I mean, it is wonderful. I mean, I go out there with our dog. It's a great place to go dog walking. It's a great place to take the kids. For us, it's just got restroom facilities and lots to do. Sightseeing, nature trails. You can go over on the inlet side, which is, not the beachfront, but over on the inlet side of Huntington Beach State Park, do a lot of bird watching, alligator watching. Don't worry, alligators aren't in the ocean, or if they are, it's by accident. They don't want to be there. This is just for watching, but a lot of sightseeing and other things to do in Huntington Beach State Park. And in addition to the restrooms, which I mentioned, there are playgrounds, there are covered areas for family events, if you want to go out and have a family event. And there is an on-site gift shop and restaurant. It's actually in the process of being built out, so I can't speak to what it has yet, but this coming summer, this is the beginning of 2023, this coming summer, they're going to have food options. I saw they were building this area out. I'm sure it'll have ice cream and things like that. I'm totally guessing, but burgers, fries, that's what I would imagine that they're going to offer. So a lot of great things that Huntington Beach Park has access to. So here is the great part. As a resident, a pass to Huntington Beach State Park is going to be $99 a year. At the time of this video, $99 a year. And there are discounts if you are a senior. I'm not real sure what those discounts are. I apologize for that. But for $99 a year, I'm telling you, it is well worth it. Now, one thing to think about with Huntington Beach is that it's only for residents. So I say that because it tends to keep a lot of the tourist traffic, in the areas more like Garden City, Surfside. I mean, that's where the housing is for the short-term rentals, which we're going to jump into that topic later on. But you will notice that, at least as far as I have noticed, it seems to be there's less tourist traffic in Huntington Beach State Park. It's more residents because at least the last time I checked, it was $5 a person. So if you get a lot of folks in your vehicle, that's an expensive day to go to the beach. $5 a person can be pricey. Why not go to the beaches that have free accesses? So I believe it keeps that traffic down some. Now there are locations within Huntington Beach that have campgrounds, but the beach, like I said, 1.2 miles of beachfront, so it's such a large area that you wouldn't even really see them. They're located in other areas than the public access is there. So again, I just wanted to quickly cover that before we jump in the video. I'm going to show you this footage so you can check it out. Please reach out if you have additional questions about Huntington, and scroll down. I have some wonderful info below. If you're on my Murrells Inlet real estate page, please scroll down. If you're not there now, make your way there. I have some other info about Huntington Beach State Park and what all it has to offer. So let's go ahead and jump into that now. So as we're still on the topic of beaches, I do apologize. I don't mean to be redundant about this, but I did mention earlier I'm going to cover what Garden City Beach is. This was topic 3. It's a question that comes up a lot. You know, where's Garden City Beach? I have a lot of folks that reach out, as you may be as well, in the preliminary stages and have never visited here before. So they say, what is this Garden City Beach? So I'm going to quickly explain that. And the easiest way to do that is, you know, it is an unincorporated area of Murrells Inlet. So what does that mean? If you were to ask the post office, Garden City Beach does not exist. It's simply Murrells Inlet. I will put on an envelope Murrells Inlet, you know, if coming from my office. My office is located in Garden City Realty, is located in Garden City over on the beach. And I will put Murrells Inlet as our mailing address because that's what they want to see. If I write a real estate contract, that's what the attorneys want to see on the real estate contract as the property address. So keep that in mind. It is just our beach. That's the easiest way to break it down. So if you say, where is the beach in Murrells Inlet? That is Garden City Beach. Now, this is also, I'm going to quickly touch on this. And again, we'll cover it a little bit later in one of the other topics I mentioned. But Garden City Beach is where our short-term rentals on. You know, you heard me say that in the last little clip. And what that means is there's a lot of areas in Murrells Inlet that do not allow short-term rentals, or at least the HOAs. We're made up of a lot of HOAs and planned communities, and you cannot short-term rent those properties for less than 12 months. So if you have questions on that and investment properties, that's a separate topic, please reach out. But you can't rent those houses short-term other than over in the areas like Garden City Beach and Surfside. So what you'll find over there is a lot of the turnover type traffic and a lot of the short-term rentals. The office I'm with, Garden City Realty, we have around this time, I believe it's between 400 and 450 vacation rentals just in that little pocket of beach. So there is a lot of homes over there, a lot of condos for rent. So that is where a lot of the public beach accesses are, and that's where you're going to see a lot of that traffic. Now, we're going to get into later talking about the style of housing and what to expect and the type of communities, and that's where we're going to cover a little bit more about Garden City Beach. But for the purpose of this topic, I just wanted to answer that question of what is Garden City Beach. Garden City Beach, from the furthest point in Murrells Inlet, you're looking at about 6 miles. I believe I mentioned that earlier. So that's max. I'm located about 4 miles, 4-ish miles away in the location I'm at in Prince Creek. But yeah, again, please reach out with further questions about Garden City Beach. I hope that helped as you're looking online and trying to figure out what is this Garden City Beach area. So we're going to go ahead and jump into topic number 4 now. Now, a question I've had come up a lot over the years is, where is the closest airport? So thankfully we do have an airport close by. It's up in Myrtle Beach. And it's about 20 minutes from Murrells Inlet. I timed it the other day and it was right at about 20 minutes. So gratefully, it's far enough away that we don't have to worry about airplane noise and the things that go along with being close to an airport, but close enough to get up there if we need to make a trip. It is an international airport. Now, it's not your large JFK or Atlanta airport, but it is an international airport, and the major airlines do come into the Myrtle Beach airport. You know, your Delta, American, you know, all the big Southwest, they all come into Myrtle Beach. Now, you might have to experience a layover with flying into some areas, but I do know there's a lot of direct flights to areas in the Northeast, as we are such a vacation spot to folks coming down, or second home spot to folks in the Northeast. So just wanted to address the airport, as I've had that question come up quite often over the years. But again, I've had the question come up for airplane noise. I've been in Murrells Inlet for 10 years out of the 20 I've lived here, and I have not noticed any problems with airplane noise from my personal experience. So now, jumping into healthcare, this is a question I've had come up over the years of folks looking to relocate here and want to know what medical is available. What are the medical resources here, you know, when moving to Murrells Inlet, South Carolina? So we have a hospital right in the middle of Murrells Inlet called the Waccamaw Hospital, and not far from Waccamaw, up in Surfside, we have the South Strand Hospital, and then up in Myrtle Beach, the Grand Strand Hospital. Now, in addition to the hospitals, we have many you know, specialty practices, specialty offices, specialty doctors along the Grand Strand area. So, you know, but then there's also, I think this is another thing that's valuable to us, is the proximity to Charleston. So we're located here in Murrells Inlet, obviously on the South Strand. I've covered that in other videos. South of Myrtle Beach, which puts us closer to Charleston, South Carolina. I've made that trip to Charleston, South Carolina a number of times for medical reasons with the family. We've had to go down and see some specialty doctors for the kids, and it's about an hour 15, hour and 30 minutes, depending on the time of day, to get down there to Mount Pleasant or Charleston. It obviously depends on where you go, but I mention that because it's nice to have that option. Charleston is where, so why do I mention Charleston? Charleston is where one of the most well-known hospitals in South Carolina is located, which is MUSC. There's a medical college there, and there's a lot of wonderful technology and doctors down in the Charleston area. So if it's something that you need a specialty doctor for, it's a great place to go. For my family, we think it's a benefit being able to go down and make a trip. We'll go down for a medical appointment and turn what obviously is not a pleasant thing of going to see a doctor. We'll make an unpleasant thing into a pleasant day, because we'll go down and do some shopping, go out to eat, spend some time with the kids, or maybe it's just my wife and I while the kids are in school. But we kind of look at it as turning a negative maybe into a positive, and getting down there and enjoying the city and the town, the beautiful town of historic Charleston, South Carolina. So I just think that's an awesome resource to mention, and make sure we cover the proximity. So hope that helps. We're going to go ahead and jump into the next topic now. This is a fun one. This is the fun thing to share with folks. I've had the question come up over the years. It's very likely that you are interested in knowing what there is to do in Murrells Inlet and what the way of life is like in this area. You know, that's really an important thing, obviously, as you're considering a move. That's probably one of the number one things you're looking for. What is it like in Murrells Inlet as far as things to do, activities, things going on? So I'm going to share some. This is a tough one, because obviously I can't share everything. There's so much going on, so much to do. I'm going to include some video footage in a moment of some things that my family has done. Just some thing. Obviously I showed you Huntington Beach State Park, so I'll leave that out. But just some other things going on. But there's a lot to do. If you have questions about what all there is to do, I'm sure if we have a conversation and you're asking questions, I can help answer those. But there's a lot to do. What's neat about Murrells Inlet is it's small enough that it doesn't seem like it's entirely overpopulated. We don't have interstates. We're not a big city. The vast mileage of the area will show you that on a map, that we're just not a big area. But there's enough people and enough population that it keeps the activities fun. I mean, there's a lot going on, and it's funny. As this area has grown, I say that there might be some people in here going, "What are you talking about?" There's people everywhere. Well, we have grown. I mean, we were once an old little fishing village, and there's a lot of people. We were a hidden gem when I first moved here. I've been here in the area 20 years, so I have been coming to Murrells Inlet. I lived in Myrtle Beach when I first moved down, but Murrells Inlet the last 10 years, and wow, it surely has grown, as it's such an attractive area. So I understand that, as it's been on your radar and others, and all it has to offer with affordable living, it has grown. But that also means more restaurants, more things to do. So, you got to look at the positives and everything. But this area is awesome. I mean, it is so fun. I'm not even biased in saying that, because it just is. There's a lot to do. So I'm going to touch on a few of those, like I said, and include some video footage. But please reach out if you have questions. Like I said, we'll go over more. But so let's go ahead and first touch on one of the staples. We have several staples in Murrells Inlet, but I would say the one most well-known staple among folks that have vacationed here is the Murrells Inlet Marsh Walk. Okay, so you saw the sign earlier where I shot a little video clip of our sign that said the seafood capital of South Carolina. The idea is right there at the Marsh Walk. So the Marsh Walk, if you remember the map we looked at earlier, is right in the mouth of Murrells Inlet. Called it Murrells Inlet proper. The inlet, locals refer to it as a lot, but we'll call it the Inlet Marsh Walk area. So where those jetties come in, you know, the access to the ocean you saw on that map, that's where the Marsh Walk is located, back on the other side on the inlet. There's a number of seafood restaurant and venues in that area that are known for local seafood. Obviously, being the seafood capital of South Carolina, that name came from somewhere. There is a lot of fishing boats that go out of Murrells Inlet, and some of these restaurants have their own fishing boats. They actually go out and catch some of the fish that they are serving, which is really neat. You could be actually eating fresh local seafood. It doesn't just say that. I mean, it's coming off a boat, you know, with some of those fresh catches. It could have been caught that day. So that's really, really neat. And all these restaurants, venues, bars, they're lined up. And where the term Marsh Walk comes from is there's a marsh walk that runs behind these restaurants. Now, a lot of folks will go down it. What's the primary theme there is to go down and walk around behind the restaurants, maybe after dinner to hang out and maybe just take in the views, you know, whatever it is. This Marsh Walk's beautiful. There's a pier that goes out onto the inlet if you just want to go down and check out the scenery. But you can grab your favorite beverage or cup of coffee and walk around. Murrells Inlet, the Murrells Inlet Marsh Walk area is also known for live music. We have a lot of acts even outside of this area. We have some local musicians, but they'll come in, travel in from all over. So we have some wonderful music. I mean, there's been some folks that have played at a Murrells Inlet that are really doing big things. So it's a neat area. You know, awesome food, lots to do, always something going on. They hold a lot of events over on the Marsh Walk, from the holiday events like the Santa Crawl, Halloween, oyster roast. Yeah, you know, as far as seafood goes, I have to mention this. Not a biased thing. This is I mean, it is. There's just no way there's any better than a Murrells Inlet oyster. Our oysters are so sweet and salty because of where they come from. They're better than anything I've ever had. I love oysters, and I've had a lot of them. So, you know, but we have a lot of oyster roast. They do a chicken bog. If you don't know what bog is, it's big in South Carolina. You know, so chicken bog, you'll just have to learn to love it, or at least just participate in the event if you don't. Chili cook-off. There's just a lot of things that they put together. Murrells Inlet does a wonderful job of putting these events together. So that's one of our staples. Some of the other things that we have to do is golf. Obviously, golf in this area is unbelievable. At one time, we had well over 100 golf courses, still a number of courses. I'm a golfer myself, so if you have questions about golf, I'd love to help. Actually, 20 years ago, that's what brought me to this area. I was considering a move into the golf business, but I love golf, and I'd be happy to share. I've played every single course in this area. I'd be happy to share, you know, membership options and what's there to do. I'm going to touch on this one because it seems to be a favorite. There's about 20 courses, give or take, that are part of a group called the Founders Club. And a number of those courses are right here in Murrells Inlet. And with this group, you can purchase an annual membership type pass, rewards type program, and play these courses. So you have many options, and it's extremely affordable. They have just a winter membership for the secondary homeowners, and I think it's $50 for the year, and I think the lowest level annual membership is $119 for the year. And how it works is you pay for the membership, you pay a fee to play, which is a discount fee through that membership, and you actually acquire points with some of the membership levels, which are all affordable, but you acquire points that'll go towards a round. So, you know, when I've used it, it's been about every fourth round I notice, which is free. I cash in my points and get to play for free. So it's a wonderful option. Some of the well-known courses on that part of the Founders Group include TPC, the TPC golf course. It's the only one in the state of South Carolina, a very desirable course. We have Blackmore right in the middle of Murrells Inlet. And then going down to Polly's, you got Litchfield, River Club, Willbrook Plantation, you got Polly's Plantation, loads of courses, many others, but those are just a few that might jump out at you. We've got some wonderful golf options. Reach out to me if you have questions there. I love to talk golf. Please reach out to me. So next, activities. If you're an active person, I'm an active person, so I love, you know, being in the options we have here for running, walking, sightseeing, hiking, whatever it may be, kayaking, paddle boarding. We have a wonderful bike trail. I'm going to show you some footage of the bike trail that runs from Murrells Inlet to Polly's Island. What's neat about it is it's shaded, so during the summer months it's nice and cool. It's a great biking, walking, running trail. We have loads of obviously sightseeing if that's something you enjoy doing. We have the Brook Green Gardens, which is beautiful. You can purchase an annual pass there. Obviously Huntington Beach State Park, I covered that earlier, shot some footage there. And boating, I mean, I have to mention boating being in obviously the seafood capital. And there's an old little tagline, you know, for boating and fishing. And I'm not sure that I mentioned it earlier, but yeah, our little tagline, I believe, is a small drinking village with a fishing problem. This used to be an old fishing village, so there's a load of fishing and boating that goes on. There's actually 3 marinas that can be used, public marinas. 2 of them have boat launches. So you got one in Garden City, one in Murrells Inlet, and one on the Intercoastal Waterway. The Murrells Inlet, there is a public boat landing boat launch right next to the marina over there. And then also over on the Intercoastal Waterway, the Wakawachi Marina, you have a boat ramp there as well. And if you want options for a slip, boat storage, there's those options. Reach out to me, we can discuss more about that. But lots of boating and fishing options available to you. The Intercoastal Waterway runs from New York to Florida. So a lot of folks choose to go that route. That's not ocean. That would be over on the inlet for salt water. But it does run up and down the coast. And a lot of folks like that option because there you can find a lot of things to do. Your day cruising, go to a restaurant, you know, hop off the boat here and there, go to a sandbar, lots to do there. But so very sorry, I ran out of memory card. I had a technical difficulty there, but I'm back. So I was covering the boating. You know, the Intercoastal Waterway runs up and down from New York to Florida. So a lot of folks like there the option to hop off your boat to park at restaurants, go visit Georgetown, drive up into Myrtle Beach, places that are you know, a relatively easy trip. Go down, enjoy the day, have some dinner, maybe pull up to a sandbar. There's a lot of different options on the Intercoastal Waterway, so a lot of folks enjoy that option. But that pretty much covers everything as far as, you know, that I wanted to at least mention in the video. There's a lot to do, a lot more going on. And if you have direct questions, like I said, please reach out. We could discuss. You know, when someone asks questions, that's when it's easier to answer. You know, it's tough in these videos to cover it all. But I'm going to go ahead and show you this footage of time I've spent with my family, whether we've been, and I've shot some video footage. And I just hope that you enjoy it, and maybe it helps give a little bit further direction and maybe gives you an idea of what the way of life is like here in Murrells Inlet, South Carolina. So I hope you enjoy. I'm going to jump into that now. All right, so now that you've taken a look at some of the things there are to do in Murrells Inlet, I'm going to jump into the communities next. Now, in the video footage, I did not show you any of the community activities and also those things that are common and things to do, because I knew I was jumping into this topic next. So now I'm going to go over topic number 8 with you, which I mentioned earlier, is the style of community, style of housing that you'll find here in Murrells Inlet. Now, first off, we do have a lot of options. We have a number of options here. If you're looking for, if you don't want to be in a community, we have that option for you. If you don't want to be in an HOA with any sort of restrictions, we have that option for you. If you want to be over closer to the ocean outside of a community, we have that option for you. So there's a lot of different options, but what I'm going to jump into, and please reach out to me if I don't really cover in specifics on the type of home or community you're looking for, and I'll let you know if it is available. What I'm trying to touch on is what's probably more common, the majority of what you'll see here. And that is going to be mainly the golf course style or the master plan style communities. These are the communities, if you're not familiar with them, that a builder has come in, purchased, a developer has come in, started a neighborhood and subdivided it into lots. Now, a lot of those communities are more tract built, meaning that it was one builder that built the homes. You would come in, pick the lot, a buyer would come in and pick the lot and pick one of maybe 10 home plans and put it on that lot. However, we do have some that are custom built, so you would purchase the lot and then find a custom builder and build your own house to your specific liking, depending on the footprint and what the lot could handle. So there are different options there, but they're still master plan style, meaning they have community amenities and things to do. Some are gated, some have sidewalks, there's a lot of that. So that community is commonly going to be inland, okay? So we've touched briefly on Prince Creek. Again, if scroll down, check that community out, that master plan district of about 20 different communities like I'm discussing now. But we're about, like I said, 6 to 7 miles inland. So that's where you're gonna find a lot of these golf course style, golf cart style, however you want to refer to them, master plan style communities. You're going to find commonly amenities. Some places you'll find a clubhouse, which is very nice for, if you're coming down here and want to get to know people and have somewhere to go socialize. They'll have things that will go on. The neighbors can hold events there. They might have a card night. They might have book clubs. They might have, supper events or whatever it may be. And then also, the pools that you have in these amenity centers, most of them will have a pool. You'll have things like water aerobics going on in the morning. And a lot of these more unsanctioned style events, you can get into some communities that are what's called 55 plus communities, active adult communities, where they'll have, more on-site structure, so to speak. They'll have video, events that are planned. But a lot of these communities have the amenities, and a lot of the residents just, maybe they have a newsletter or something that a volunteer newsletter that goes out, and you'll find out about these events, and they're unsanctioned, so to speak, which is nice because you're not paying extraordinary price in HOA dues and still have the advantage of participating in these events. So that's what you'll find, some clubhouses, pools. Pickleball is huge here in South Carolina. I wanted to cover that in the last video because pickleball is so big here, but I knew I was jumping into it here. So most of the communities do have pickleball courts. They're actually tennis courts in many cases that have pickleball, pickleball lines as well. And you'll have a lot of things like leagues and all that. And I've heard that communities form their own teams and go play other neighborhoods. It's pretty neat as that sport has grown. But a lot of pickleball for you folks that really enjoy that and want to be active. You'll have sidewalks in many cases for bikers, walkers. You'll have that option. Like I said, a number of these communities are gated, and just a lot to do. Now there are communities that have more than others. There's some that have volleyball and picnic areas for outside events, basketball playgrounds, cornhole, horseshoes. I mean, there's some that offer more than others, but for the most part, most of them do offer at least a swimming pool and gathering area. So you'll be able to get to know some folks. Wonderful for those of, I know that a lot of folks are leaving friends and family behind, and they're concerned about getting to know people and what there is to do. And that's a great place to go do that and get to know people by the swimming pool and in these events. So now that we've covered the community, I'm gonna jump into a little bit of what the housing looks like in these style of communities. And the housing in these communities are commonly going to be more single-story style home designs, okay? Now you can find a lot of different home styles, so don't get me wrong, that's not all of them, but the builders did take a notice for this and noticed that a lot of folks moving here were relocating and wanted to be on a single floor and not have to fight stairs. So you're gonna find a lot of those options. I wanted to touch on that because as we're in an inventory crunch here at the time that I'm shooting this video, that's the more common house you're gonna have that comes up for sale. Now it doesn't mean there's not many other options. The common square footage that you'll find is about 1,800 to 2,400 heated square feet, maybe a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. Now, some of these homes, a lot of these homes do have bonus rooms upstairs over the garage. Some of them do have a second level, an entire second level, but many have a bonus room upstairs, and most homes do offer a garage. So we don't have basements here. That's one thing I wanted to address. We do not have basements anywhere. Here, even 6 to 7 miles inland, we're only resting at about 18 foot above sea level, at least where I'm at in Prince Creek, or at least most of Prince Creek, somewhere between that 15 and 20 foot elevation. So we start, because of the water table, we start digging, we're gonna hit water. So you won't find basements. So what a lot of folks that are used to basements have found is they want that option for a bonus room. Bonus room for maybe guests that visit, if you don't have a 4th bedroom, or maybe it's your game room, maybe it's your TV room, whatever it may be, pool table, gym, whatever it may be. And a lot of people will heat and cool their garages and make the garage into something, put a home gym in, or even couches. I mean, you'll see people really deck out their garages here because, again, we don't have that basement option. I'm originally from an area that we had basements, so I understand that might be different to you, but that's how we've gotten around it with these bonus rooms and garages. So please reach out to me if you want to learn more about what kind of options there are within these communities. I just, again, wanted to touch on what is more common in this area. So there are options now. If you go closer to the beach, notice I'm talking further inland. If you go over to the beach, you will notice that there are different home styles over there, and a lot of them are more this stilt-built kind of home. So for those that take notice of that, for those of you that don't want to fight stairs, you'll probably be looking for a house with an elevator, which is not as common, okay? So, that's one thing that if you want single story, you may decide you want to be further inland, or if you want amenities. Amenities are commonly found inland as well. But if you really want to be ever close to the beach, the homes over there are traditionally a little bit older. They're not as new. The newer construction really started inland. That's where the development went on. More recently, the beach area has been there for a very long time, so you'll find older homes. You won't find a lot of amenities, and again, you'll be in those higher risk floodplains, and it's going to require building up. So you'll find a lot of the homes on stilts, and that's for coding reasons. And I'm going to discuss that a little bit on the last topic, so we won't jump too much into that now. Now over on Murrells Inlet proper, we've already went over where that's at, the inlet over by the marsh walk. What's interesting is you'll find a lot of those same style houses over in the area, over in that area as well, that you'll find over in Garden City Beach, over by the beach. The stilt-built homes. Now it's different there. A lot of those are not in the high-risk floodplains, but I believe it's because of the lot sizes, and you'll find some quite a bit of bigger homes, so you'll still see a lot that are that Charleston style, 3-story style, built up home, on top of each other to get that extra square footage. So you'll have stairs over there in many cases, not all cases, but you'll find a lot of homes that are kind of got that built up Charleston style look. That's just not as common when you get a little bit further inland, like the Prince Creek area. So it really just depends on what you're looking for. We have a lot of different options. Obviously, check it out down below. Search Murrells Inlet Homes. I've got some great, using my simple search source below, I've got great criteria laid out for you where it's just a click and go. If you're looking for a single story home, if you're looking for a golf course community, a gated community, whatever it may be, I've already broken down the searches below into different price brackets. Saves you from figuring out what's out there, how do I find this option. Just click and go below. So I hope that's helpful to you. Go check that out. Don't worry so much about the registration, guys. This is my website. Your info will come through. It only goes to me. I can assure you, you will not be bombarded and pestered. So, check that out. See if you can find something that may suit. And again, reach out if you want to discuss that criteria a little bit further. We can get you going in the right direction. So, anyways, I hope this has helped a little bit in talking about the style of housing, style of community. We're going to talk a little bit further about it on the last topic as we talk about hurricanes and flooding for the style of houses and areas as well. So let's go ahead and jump into topic 9 now. So now that you have an idea of what the housing and communities are like, let's jump into the next topic, which is the standard cost of living. Have a lot of folks that ask me this question quite often about what kind of expenses will I be looking at if I purchase a home in Murrells Inlet, South Carolina. Obviously, taxes, insurance, utilities, those are some things that commonly come up. And then I also have some folks that ask, what's the area like? Is food expensive? Things to do? Is it an expensive place to live? Well, go ahead and buckle up, take a seat, because I'm going to share something with you that may shock you. You might be falling out of your seat depending on where you are located. So I'm going to jump into taxes first. I'm just going to use my personal home as an example. Now it's based off the assessed value, but I live in a 3,000 square foot home, a neighborhood in Murrells Inlet, and my taxes are about $1,200. Now that's $1,200 for the year. Yes, $1,200 for the year. Now I know if you're coming from the Northeast, these numbers are probably wild to you. So now that you've caught your breath, picked yourself up off the floor, let's go ahead and talk a little bit further about that, because that is the primary taxes primary tax rate that is paid. So $1,200, just to give you an idea annually for what I pay on my home. That is because I live here and it's my primary residence, or claim to be my primary residence. Now, we do have a higher tax rate for secondary homes. So those of you out there that are considering making this a second home and it not be your primary, you're looking at, my same home would be probably closer to $4,000, maybe $3,500, $4,000. So just to give, just make sure that you consider that as far as your expenses. There's a lot to go through when discussing that. There's a furniture tax, there's some other things, but reach out to me for questions, more detailed questions in relation to taxes. And then also, I like folks to understand what it means to consider a home, or for the county to consider your home a primary. It does not mean you have to occupy it a certain amount of time out of the year. There's other things that you may, there's many people that make their home here their primary and still have another home somewhere else that's their secondary, because they probably don't get a tax break there for their primary versus secondary. So please reach out to me with those questions. I don't want to go in too much detail here, as there's a lot of moving pieces to discuss there. So taxes are obviously crazy cheap here. That's what's so, it's an affordable place to live and so attractive to a lot of folks as you're looking up and down the coast. I know North Carolina and Florida are more expensive than North Carolina and Georgia are more expensive than our area for taxes. So, and there's also some tax advantages on income tax and other things like that. So we're just an incredibly affordable place, which is what makes one of the big things that make our areas so attractive. Now, insurance may be a little more than where you're coming from. Really not sure. Depends on where you're at, but that's because we are in the South Carolina wind and hail pool. Unless you look, this video is about Murrells Inlet. Now you start getting much further inland on the other side of Conway, you may be outside of the wind and hail pool, but For the purpose of this video, of what I'm talking to you about today, there is nowhere in Murrells Inlet that's outside of the wind and hail pool. So you're gonna have higher insurance costs. I'm gonna use the same home, my home for an example. My insurance are about $2,900 for the year. Now that's as of 2023 when I'm shooting this video. Insurance has gone up the last couple of years. That was not my rate. It's actually about doubled over the last couple of years. It has gone up due to a lot of reasons, but one of those being replacement cost, as values have gone up. So you insure the replacement cost and what you're willing to insure that. Now, can you get insurance much cheaper than that? Possibly. I do have a larger premium because I did up my replacement cost and some other things as far as my coverage goes I wanted to have in there. Those are questions, take a lot of time and pour a lot into learning about the insurance business. So please give me a call if you have questions. There may be a lot of people that, you know, there may be agents that like to throw spaghetti against the wall and hope it sticks. It's never been my approach. I don't want to have to, now insurance providers are experts in that field, but I can tell you that insurance providers outside of this area are not experts, and there's not many of them that consider replacement costs as a big issue. So they're not experts in this area. They don't know our replacement costs, and what you find online or the systems they use don't always reflect what the actual replacement cost will be. Those are a lot of things I'd love to talk to people about and make sure they understand what they're getting themselves into as far as insurance goes. So please, those are questions, like I said, I'd love for you to reach out to me so we can talk in more detail and make sure you understand what you're covered for. There's gap coverages, there's all kinds of different extended replacement costs. There's a lot to discuss there. But $2,900 now, I'm about 6 to 7 miles, as I've mentioned before. I'm in Prince Creek. I'm about 6 to 7 miles inland from the ocean. So as you get over to the ocean, it will get more expensive. So if you're considering areas and want to be close to the beach, you may very likely pay a higher insurance rate. Obviously, closer to the beach means the wind pool. Obviously, wind's going to be a little bit different the closer to, stronger the closer you get to the beach. So insurance companies take that in consideration. But in addition to that, you start getting into some of the higher risk floodplains in certain areas. So I am not within a higher risk floodplain. I'm in what's considered very low risk or the lowest risk. So, if I do have optional flood coverage, I did not mention that figure in there. I pay about $600 for the year for my flood coverage. It's optional. I'm not really, with a mortgage, I wouldn't be required to have it. Let's put it that way. But I'm going to address a little bit further in the next topic. I'm sure I'm getting ahead of myself there. I'll address flood insurance in the next topic and go in a lot more detail to where that makes sense. But flood insurance and things like that are going to be more expensive the closer you get to the beach and the higher risk floodplains. So insurance, standard housing, is going to be, your standard house. If you're here inland and not closer to the beach, hopefully those rates will give you a good idea. It is going to be very hard for me to coin down exact figures for you because there is so much that goes into it as far as home age, roof age, proximity to the beach, floodplain, all those different things. Those are questions it's better to reach out to me to discuss. But hopefully that'll give you an idea of my taxes, my insurance as a reference. So utilities are extremely cheap here as well. Some utilities are covered in the HOA dues. Okay, I know that I don't actually think I mentioned that in the last video, but the standard HOA dues in these planned communities are going to be somewhere between $50 and $150 a month, depending on what they cover. Some of them do include trash, and some of these some include a cable package, whatever it may be. So it really depends on that, but I'll walk you through some of those expenses really quick. So my electric is on average about $200 to $225 a month. That's on average. That's the high and lows. Obviously it gets very warm here during the summer, so that's considering those months that are more expensive. So I'd say my average is between $2 and $225. Our water bill on average is about $30 to $35 a month. Our cable bill is roughly $120, cable and internet, roughly $120 to $150 a month on average. Trash is going to run you probably between, I would say, $30 and $40 a month. Mine is included in the HOA, but you know, that to kind of give you the idea of the basic utilities that you will pay. Now, you don't plan to come here and have a $30 water bill if you're someone that loves to water a lawn, you know, nonstop during the summer. You know, you're going to have higher bills depending on higher irrigation bills depending on you know, your preference there. So anyways, but I just wanted to give you a standard idea. Now, the cost of living here, the standard cost of living here, you know, as far as outside of those expenses that you must pay, you know, food and things like that, it's in an incredibly affordable area. I have traveled to many other areas, you know, Florida, North Carolina, all these different beaches that I mentioned. Now, there's some that are very comparable, but I can tell you that there are many that it seems like the way of life, the food costs, the things to do, they're more expensive than our area. So it's very attractive. There's a lot of local discounts, off-season discounts, a lot of things that we have to offer here. I mentioned golf earlier. Golf is incredibly cheap here, affordable here. So, you know, the standard cost of living, the day-to-day, the grocery expenses, very, very affordable here. Not gonna say it's the cheapest. I'm not real sure about that, but I can tell you that as far as the coastal areas that I have visited, very comparable to the most affordable I've seen. So hope that helps you. I'm gonna go ahead and jump into the next topic, and I'll cover some more insurance of the insurance there. So lastly, to jump into topic 9, this is I'm gonna kind of pick up where I left off and talk a little bit more about some of the insurance and things that I covered in the last question. But this is something that comes up quite often. I have a lot of folks ask about hurricanes and flooding. You know, what's the risk of the flood risk in your area, and what's the hurricane risk? You know, where a lot of people say, what has been your experience? So I'm gonna walk you through a bit of that. We'll talk about some historical data, but also I've been here 20 years, so I'll just kind of give you an idea of my experience and what I have noticed, maybe some of the pros here versus some of the other southern eastern coastal areas. So let's go ahead and jump into my experience, and then, you know, we'll talk about historical data. So I've been here for 20 years, and I'd say the 3 events that were the worst since I've been here, the damage that I've seen was Hurricane Matthew in 2016, Hurricane Florence in 2018, I believe, and then most recently 2022, Hurricane Ian did some damage right on the ocean, to the oceanfront homes. No damage whatsoever inland, but let's go ahead and jump into Hurricane Matthew in 2016. Hurricane Matthew was actually the worst this area has seen since Hurricane Hugo in 1989. 1989 was a devastating event. I was very, very young. I was not here living in the area at that time, obviously, but we even got it. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, or around that area, and we even got the storm there. It was really, really bad. It pushed further inland. So that was a really bad storm. And then fast forward 2016. So obviously many, many years before we had any kind of devastating storm, you know, any kind of significant damage. But 2016 Hurricane Matthew hit us. It was kind of the perfect storm, perfect chain of events for damages, I would say. I hate to say perfect because it was not perfect in any way with the damage it left, but it came in we got the back side of the storm, the very strong side of the storm, and it hit us in a new moon king tide, which what that means is we have tides throughout the year that are higher than normal high tides. You know, we have high tides, obviously, each and every day, but a new moon king tide, gravitational pull pulls the tides in higher, and it hit, so it pushed up the surge even more so than than a regular king tide. So obviously around the beaches, the storm surge, there was a lot of damage there, and then we had a lot of wind on the backside. And leading up to Matthew, we had a lot of rain. We had for weeks. We had rain, weeks on end. We had rain. And all of our root systems of the trees, you know, they were compromised because they're just so wet. It didn't take much wind to knock these trees over. And we haven't had any wind for so long. I mean, we had some very large trees come down. I had a listing down in Polly's Island that had a large, I don't know, 100-year-old tree. I'm just throwing a guess out there, but one of these big, huge oak trees on the old plantation come down on a house. So just a lot of trees down and a lot of flooding. So that was obviously a bad storm. And then fast forward 2018 during Florence, that was all a rain related event. It was a very slow moving storm, if you remember seeing that one. And that was, that did a lot of damage as North Carolina took a brunt of the rain, and as it fed down the intercoastal waterway, actually the worst we saw, the worst of the flooding was later on in the week after, several days after the storm, which was very interesting. And then Hurricane Ian just did some damage along our coastal areas with the storm surge because it, again, hit during a new moon king tide. But no damage inland. It was really not a wind event. It was more so storm surge. So, and that, so to go into that, there's a big misunderstanding, as a lot of folks don't, have never been to a coastal area. I mean, I would have not really thought about it much from the area that I'm from. Looking at the coast, kind of always relate flooding to be storm surge, related to the ocean. Well, commonly flooding happens further inland. Actually, Conway, South Carolina, which is further inland, much further inland than Murrells Inlet, is known for many areas that are prone to flooding from heavy amounts of rain. So rain is actually the more worrisome thing when these storms come through, typically, or at least historically, since I've been here, that's what's caused the most damage. So just something to consider. That said, a lot of our newer communities are built up. We seem to not have any flooding issues, even in Florence, which I think is the highest water levels historically ever. Definitely since I've been here, there was not very many homes that actually flooded, because now a lot of road flooding and things, but the way the communities are designed and built up, no actual home flooding. So that was very nice. Reach out to me with questions about that. It's hard to cover every specific area. There were some flooding around the intercoastal waterway communities, but overall, it was mainly road flooding, and just, it was just a nuisance, couldn't get out, and inconvenience for a few days. As I said, it was, it was a long period of time before the flooding really made its way here. But something to consider if you're considering an intercoastal waterway house. I'd love to have those questions with you relating to that. So, a hurricane's a problem. Of course, hurricanes are, something you got to worry about moving to the coast. But I will say, when you look at Florida, just looking at data, facts, Florida's out there, they seem to get more the brunt of the damage than we do. We're kind of hidden. If you look at a map, you've got Florida that obviously sticks out. We kind of come back in, luckily, in a lot of these storms since I've been here for the last 20 years, they seem to head up further up the coast and hit North Carolina and some of these areas that are more exposed out in the ocean, a little further out. So I'd say overall, I mean, we've been very fortunate. Now, you move to the coast, it's going to be a matter of when. It's not if, it's when. So I hope that helps you a little bit, and just, my personal experience, maybe giving back a little bit there. But I want to jump in, more importantly, to flooding, flood zones. I'm sorry. I want to jump into the flooding piece of it as far as insurance goes and the risk. So unfortunately, there's a lot of bad information out there of this whole idea of being in a floodplain and not being in a floodplain, a flood zone, or however you want to refer to that, of not being in a flood zone or being in a flood zone. There's really no such thing as not being within a flood zone. And I know, unfortunately, that's how the questions ask a lot. There's a lot of bad direction, advisement out there. The easiest way to put it is that, let's say that you did flood, you're outside of a high-risk floodplain, you're at the lowest risk flood zone, wherever it may be. Let's say that it's the desert of the Midwest. Looking at the U.S., we're in the Midwest desert, and what's the risk there of flooding? Obviously, extremely low risk, right? So the risk part of it is up to the individual. Now, if you're in an X floodplain, which is the lowest risk, we have many areas here in Murrells Inlet that are in that low risk X floodplain, you do not have to have flood insurance per your mortgage company. However, there are areas in an X floodplain that have not been remapped yet that flood and have flooded. So just because you're in an X floodplain, do not think that that means you do not need flood insurance. And unfortunately, I try to have a transparent approach. Maybe I give out a little too much info to folks, but that's just the way that I have always done things, and that's the way that I like to conduct business. I'm a consumer on several things, and I want all the information. So for me, I'm going to give it all to you. So just because it's not been mentioned to you, and people say you may be not in a flood zone, which is again not accurate, but let's say you're in low risk, consider your situation. Is optional flood coverage worth it? As I shared earlier, I'm not in a high-risk floodplain, but I do have optional flood coverage. It cost me $600 for the year. That's a risk that I wasn't willing to take, not having that insurance. Now, you may decide, hey, I'll self-insure, I don't care. That's fine. I mean, there's many owners in a very high-risk floodplain that self-insure. So it really just depends on your situation. But I want you to at least have all the facts and what that looks like. So there's no such thing as not within a floodplain. That's what I wanted to cover more than anything in this topic, because I know that I may not end up being your agent, but I just want to give back and get all the info out there. Please consider the situation, consider the area, and don't just assume because your mortgage company doesn't require the insurance that you shouldn't look into it. If you have further questions there, please reach out. Again, we have many areas not within a high-risk floodplain that's considered to be an X flood zone. And then it goes up from there. We have AEs, it goes all the way up to the highest risk, which is VE. Obviously the coastal areas and some of the areas, around the waterway are going to be very high risk. But just consider, like I said, consider your situation, consider where you're at, and go from there. Because like I said, I don't care if you're in an X floodplain. If you flood and you reach out to your insurance company and you say, hey, somebody told me I didn't have to have flood insurance, they're going like, well, I can't help you there. You don't have insurance. You're not covered. You have the option to purchase it. So again, my whole thing is just transparency and making sure you understand that piece of it. I unfortunately know that a lot of people don't get that advisement, and they simply are purchasing out of the mortgage company telling them they don't have to. So they just figure, well, I'm not in a high risk floodplain. So, or I'm not in a flood zone, or whatever it might be, the way that it was conveyed to you. So I'm sorry that drug out. I went down in the weeds on that one, but I just I'm very passionate about getting all that info out there to my clients. So this wraps up the video, guys. I know it was long. I'm sorry. There'll be others that are much shorter, but again, it's just who I am. I like to get all the info out there. I would love to help and serve you. I would love to get more information to you. Believe it or not, there's a lot that we didn't cover here. This is just a blimp of it. Through the process of looking at homes to the time you close, there's a lot of moving pieces, and I am passionate about helping you get through those to the best of my ability. And I'm built on referrals, and I'm very grateful for all the referrals that all my clients have sent me over the years. And again, I just want to thank you for sticking it out. If you did, if you're at the end of this video, and please reach out to me if you have any further questions about Murrells Inlet, or really any area along the Grand Strand coastal area. From North Carolina to Florida, like I mentioned earlier, I can get you partnered up with someone. So reach out with your questions. I'd love to hear from you and serve you. So I'm gonna throw my contact info up one more time. God bless.